Okay guys, Cody's asked me to make a video. It's about the 5th attempt, so we're just going to run with this now. It's about prison officers. Got my laptop at the back, just reading the questions now. What would you say to someone before they consider becoming a prison officer from your experiences? Okay, I wouldn't use my experiences. If somebody came to me or a family member and said, look, I'm thinking about becoming a prison officer, or my daughter's thinking about becoming an officer, or my son or my brother, I'd maybe tell them to do a bit of research, have a look what the job involves, especially now. There's plenty of news articles on the internet, what's going on in prisons. The virus has sort of played its part in what's happening now. A lot of prisoners have pretty much been banged up for the last 4 months, 22, 23 hours a day. There was more bang up anyway before the virus due to staffing shortages. So you're going into a job that is very stressful, very hostile, quite an aggressive environment. No matter what age you are, if you pass your training, which everyone will, nobody fails the training, pass the training and go on to a landing, what can you expect? You'll expect not a lot of help. You get given some keys and you'll be expected to do the job. Now that's not being heartless and cruel. A lot of your experienced staff that have been in the job a long time, I know people like this. They're tired, they're worn out, they're fed up. All those sort of negative expletives, anything you want to say about them. And they won't have a lot of time for you. That's not to say people won't help you. It's just, in the private sector, I saw this myself. I was a new trainee. I was lucky. I worked with some experienced staff who, in the first 6 months, brought me along nicely. Then I became the experienced staff at 6 months, training new starters, which is obviously not as good. And you get fed up with it. I got fed up with it in private sector. New staff continually. There used to be, if you look at Forest Bank, 2 on a wing, 2 staff on a wing, 86 prisoners. So if you're on with someone new, you were doing a lot of work. It was a busy job anyway in the private sector. Not as many staff as public sector, and less pay. But at the time I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it, and the pay never really come into it. I also tell people to have a read at my book, Strange Ways, a Prison Officer's Story. Is it a complete guide to prison? No, it's not. However, I'm going to tell you about my book through the eyes of 2 really young people. One last 12 months in job, this is quite recent, got in touch with me. Sam, I've just read your book. I was finding it hard. I've been in the job 12 months. I'm not getting much help. People are shouting at me. That's staff. And I was thinking, packing it in. I've read your book and it's explained a lot. I'm understanding what's happening now. And although I don't feel settled and don't know whether I'm going to stay in the job, it's given me a bit more understanding. Then there's a young lad, about 25. He's been in the job 3 years. After 18 months, he got his senior officer. That's either because he was an exceptional officer or, nobody's going for it. Nobody wants managerial positions due to the stress. Anyway, he said, Sam, please write another book. He says, I read your book. I now know what to expect in the future, or what I could possibly face. I know the sort of people I'm going to come up against. That's both staff and prisoners. And it's helped a lot, so please write another book. So there you go. I'm not going to put anyone off. If you fancy having a go at that job, then by all means have a go. But a few things I may ask you, and some of this is dead cliched. Have you ever seen a fight? Have you ever been in an aggressive situation? Have you been tested? Have you had that adrenaline dump? Adrenaline, yeah. Alarm bells in prison, your adrenaline's going. Someone fronts you up, someone's fronting another officer, your legs start shaking. It's adrenaline, fight or flight. Anyway, enough of that. I'm waffling on. But it's quite difficult, you know. It's a question I've been asked. What advice would you give people? Would you put... A lot of people think I'm going to put people off. I'm not. If you fancy having a go at it, have a go at it. But go in eyes wide open. You know, do a bit of research. Have a look what's happening in the prison service. You know, if you're on social media, Twitter, whatever, there's plenty of prison officers in there. Ask them what it's like. Or, you know, your local Nick. Have a look about your local Nick. Okay, that's the first question. What advice would you give to someone thinking of becoming a prison officer? Well, we've covered that really. So we'll go on to the next one, training. Does it prepare you for a prison officer? No, it quite definitely doesn't. I've done prison officer training twice, private and public sector. Very similar. In the private sector, we did an extra week that was just an addition on my course. It was interpersonal skills. It was run by a lad called Dave Bogue. He'd been a prison officer. Anyone Scottish watching this, excuse me now, but he was at Barlini, I believe it's called, prison, for about 20 years before he became a clinical psychologist. So this week of interpersonal skills, it was good fun. You know, it was a rest from the mundane, boring garbage that has prison officer training. So that was an extra course. That is something that should be in every prison officer's course. It was amazing. You do a week of CNR, control and restraint. Again, you know, you'll see this prison documentaries, prisoners getting restrained. Looks quite violent and uncoordinated. It's a fantastic system of taking people down and in a way that's safe for them and you. That's prisoners and staff. In the old days, you know, you might go in a cell with somebody like Charlie Bronson. He was a street fighter, so you might get 6 lads going in. There'd be a proper fight, a punch up, fists, feet, and people get hurt. Most prisoners, CNR, you take them to the floor, even though you can restrain them stood up, and it's game over. That is a good week. However, if you look at my course, both at Forest Bank and Strangeways, people that didn't enjoy it. They didn't enjoy getting involved. They didn't enjoy the physicality. Being a prison officer is a contact sport. If you don't like the physicality of CNR on your training, then perhaps it's not the job for you. The other 7 weeks of prison officer training, classroom work, searching, role play, homework, tests, overhead projector sat in classes, looking at a board. It's garbage. It doesn't help anyone become a prison officer at all. For me, because I like to give solutions to problems, get them on landing, get trainees on the landing, do your CNR your first week. That's what you need. That's the part of the course you have to pass to become a prison officer. Get the CNR done. Get people on the landing 3 or 4 days a week with staff so they can see what's happening. Maybe 1 or 2 days in the class with what you think is the most important thing to learn in a classroom. But for me, the 7 weeks of classroom work, and when I look at Strangeways, I'd already done this course, straight over my head, boredom, you know, tests, all sorts of things. They try and make it professional, it's not. It doesn't help you being a prison officer. You could throw 7 weeks out the window, get people on landings. So there you go, prison officer training. If you now have low expectations and you're going for that job, then rightly so. Anybody, and I have challenged people who is in the prison service and trains people, wants to come on my podcast when it's out and tell me why prison officer training's good. And don't give me the old classic line that a lot of people have said, it's been good enough for years. Well, no, it hasn't been good enough. It's just been around for years, which is different to being good, isn't it? There's lots of things out there now. I actually know a pickpocket and a magician. not a real pickpocket. He also does a lot of work with people's heads, body language. You know, a week of CNR, a week of something like that, a week of interpersonal skills, and get people on the landings. The answers are out there. Come on, prison service. Okay, week-to-week breakdown. There's no week-to-week breakdown. You do your CNR, the rest of it is boring classroom work, straight over people's heads. So there you go. What does a prison officer's job consist of, other than the obvious? What does it consist of? Okay, there's a lot of mundane stuff. Locking and unlocking doors, that's your bread and butter. Most people from training will go to a landing. So you'll be working with other staff on a wing. You will help them staff unlock prisoners, some sort of time out of cell, lock them up at end of day. Well, that's what it used to be. Now, you probably unlock them for, excuse me, unlock them for an hour's exercise, lock them back up. Entering things on a computer, searching, all sorts of stuff. Now, like I say, with prisoners locked down 23, 24 hours a day, I find it very boring me. I'm not going to tell you about what a prison officer's job consists of. I'm going to tell you what I enjoyed. So, at Forest Bank, lots of interaction, not many staff. I enjoyed that. You know, that was part of it. You had staff who would spend all shift in the office. So that's you on your own on a landing with 86 prisoners. You know, I was comfortable with that. When I mean comfortable, there were times when it wasn't comfortable. However, strange ways, and again, very cliched this. Weekend, my weekend, Div 2. You had Div 1 and Div 2, that's just your two workings. Your weekend, sorry. Very laid back. I work with good staff, some older staff. Not macho staff, not alpha males. Good interpersonal skills. Very little happened on our weekends. Very few incidents, very quiet. Almost boring. In fact, it was. Stood on a landing, prisoners out all day, have a brew, getting backache. I don't know, 100 interactions with prisoners. Every shift, easily, you know, in and out, talking about football. What did you do last night, boss? This sort of thing. Good time to bring up dynamic security. Prisoner-staff relations, staff-prisoner relations. That's dynamic security. It's what, for me, always made prisons safe. 3 types of security in prison. You got procedural, so that's your procedures, prison rules and regs. Speaks for itself. You got physical, wire, dogs, bars, gates. And then you got dynamic security. That's the relationships you have. You know, prisoners are talking short time. So again, I'm going to go to K-Wing at night. 6 staff, 2 on each landing, 3 landings, 200 prisoners out. It was like a zoo. You had to be there to experience it. It was like a zoo. 200 people milling about, you know, trying to get a burn. Some are playing pool, in and out at showers, in and out of each other's cells. For me, you know, walking up and down that landing when it was like that, you can see things. Someone might be a bit quiet, upset, see people getting angry. The odd prisoner might come up, Mr. Samworth, go and have a look in cell 18. So you go down to cell 18, 2 lads about to get it on. Had he grassed them up? No, he hadn't. He knew they started fighting and there was an alarm bell. That was their evening done. So K-Wing, for me, you know, it was sort of the, I guess you would say, the ultimate thrill. It could be very intimidating, hostile, sometimes exciting. It was all happening, but you built relationships up. In a very short time, you knew what cell everyone went in. You know, if someone were late from showered, you walk to the cell, unlock the door, and they go, come on, Smithy, whatever. And that for me was the best part about being the best part about being a prison officer, the interactions. The boring days for me were not enough staff, prisoners locked up on most of the day. K-Wing, again, if I go back to the staff, I remember the summer could be stressful. You know, a lot of people on annual leave. We might end up with 5 staff. Now, we're quite proactive on K-Wing. You know, we didn't sit on his arse. So if we got 5 staff and we needed 13 to unlock everyone, you know, we maybe unlock the 2's landing for 1 hour and 40. Tell them, get the showers, get your phone calls. Might unlock the 3's and the 4's for the same. So they've all had time out of cell, not together. And then we might do an exercise. So we'd unlock the 2's, let them out. 3's, 4's. 2's back in, 3's back in, 4's back in. You know, we try and do stuff, and that's what they should be doing now for me. If you've got enough staff, excuse me, and I was a prison governor right now, yeah, the priority should be getting prisoners out. Get them out, some time out of cell, some routine. Even if it was only, you know, 3 mornings a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and 1 weekend morning or 1 afternoon, so they knew, right, lads, this is what you're going to, they'd know. You know, I've seen people saying that prisoners are happy with being banged up 22 and 23 hours a day. Come on, get real. It's, you know, it's going back to the dark ages. In the dark ages, 23-hour bang up. Old cons used to love it, yeah? They used to say time used to pass. You for today, nah. And it's no good. It's no good for people. It's no good for people's mental health. You know, it just causes bad feeling, aggression, frustration, all these things that were going on pre-virus. Excuse me again. I'm recovering from a cold. My apologies. So, it's been quite brief, that. 16 minutes. I've covered a lot there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let Cody have this video, upload it to his channel, and if he wants to come back with a more specific question, you know, talk about individual prison officers, I can give examples of that. You know, the bully, the lazy person, you know, the aggressive officer, the passive officer, whatever, we can do that. He's also asked me to talk a little bit about PTSD. Right. Very sadly, I've come into contact through my book and social media with a lot of prison officers who have left the service, are on the sick at the minute, who are continuing to work, who are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress, again, sorry, disorder. You know, I got diagnosed with that. I'm going to compare PTSD to a bad back. I've got a bad back, me, from playing rugby. Doesn't stop me riding my motorbike. Doesn't stop me going out on my mountain bike. Doesn't stop me doing things on a daily basis. I have a friend who's left the prison service. She has a bad back. She's quite a bit younger than me. She struggles to walk most of the time. She's constantly on painkillers. If she goes to a family wedding, has a bit of a dance and a drink, she's in bed, flat on her back for a week. And PTSD is like that. You know, some people have it mild, like my bad back. It may affect you for a couple of months. You know, you're in a car crash, you have nightmares for a couple of months. Fair dues. Other people, it's ongoing. I've met a lot of people through the book and social media, firemen, ex-squaddies, normal people who suffer daily with PTSD. It's about how it affects your life. For me, terrible sleep. I've had terrible sleep for years. And I lay awake a lot of the night, thinking about things that have happened, thinking about people. Not all bad, might I add. But it's very rare that my brain shuts down. The only time I'm probably, you know, in a really good place is when I'm on my motorbike. You know, I can get on my motorbike, go to my sister's 60 miles away, and, you know, I can't even remember the journey. It's just, I just enjoy it. It's relaxing and it clears my mind. So there you go. That's a very short 20 minutes for Cody on prison officers. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll let him have a look at the video. If he decides to upload this, you'll be watching it. And then if he wants to come back with some more specific questions, we'll do that. Okay, cheers.